she's
Oh, my bad. You're right.
She's
She's a kitty cat. They don't get in trouble.
No, we're in trouble.
She was bottle raised from a newborn, so she just thinks she's people. It's fine. She doesn't do bad cat behaviors.
Normally it's the bottle babies that are extra ferocious, so you're lucky there.
Yep.
All right, everybody, we are live. Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Technology and Workforce Strategies for Successful Veterinary Practices. I am Heather Ashcraft. I'm the Community Manager at Digitail, and I am so pleased to have you with us. And for those watching the recording, I will say welcome to you as well. We have brought together some fantastic panelists today to discuss the key challenges facing veterinary practices and also to explore how technology and workforce strategies can help overcome these obstacles. But before we really dive into the discussion, let's meet our panelists. Shar, why don't you go first with the intros?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So I work in vet med startups on my third with Rue. Also have a hobby, 2525 Sunset Vets, my private practice downtown in Houston. But most importantly, especially if you ask my husband, I'll just get to the point. I'm a cat lady. I love horses. I play soccer. That's me. That's all of me.
I love a good cat lady. Andrew, why don't you go next?
Sure. So I'm Dr. Andrew Findlaytor. I'm the lead veterinarian here at Rue. Happy to say I've always happily worked in vet med, was a tech for 6 years before school, relief vet for about 8 years. I've worked at almost 100 different hospitals. I wanted to see everything vet med could throw at you. So I've done GP, ER, shelter, really rural, and everything in between, and even a little bit of research. And like Shar, I'm a huge soccer advocate and love delicious food.
Wow, we got some sports fans here. Thank you so much. And Dawn, can you please intro yourself?
Of course. So I've been in the veterinary industry for 20 plus years. I won't put the real number on there. It's been a while. I started out in practice. I'm an RVT. I transitioned to software solutions for practice management after spending 15 years in practice as an RVT. Everything from GP to ER to urgent care to specialty, internal medicine, and eventually experience that burnout and compassion fatigue that comes with the territory. So super fortunate now to be helping my colleagues, kind of stay out of that zone and just find ways for them to work a little bit smarter instead of harder.
I love that. Thank you. And just a little tidbit of info for anyone who doesn't know, Dawn and I actually worked together at the local Emerge clinic for about 10 years. So we experienced a lot of crazy stories. We could go on and on about that, but we'll get into this. Thank you guys for those introductions. And thank you for joining us today. Now that we've met our panelists, we're going to talk about why this discussion is so crucial at this moment. The veterinary industry is facing significant challenges that demand our attention. This isn't news. First off, it should not come as a surprise to anyone, but veterinary visits are actually on the decline. Despite the boom in pet acquisition during the pandemic and the continued growing pet population, practices are actually seeing fewer clients, with a new client average dropping by negative 3.5% and transactions dropping by 3.3% last year. And that's according to the Veterinary Industry Benchmark Report. Secondly, hospitals are struggling with revenue growth. While there has been some growth at 6.3%, it's slowed significantly from the previous year, where we saw 13.4%. And this has resulted in increased pressure on practices to hit their target. The cost of veterinary care has also surged. Over the past 2 decades, the cost of services has risen 61% faster than general inflation, making it more difficult for pet owners to afford the necessary care. This is also reflected by the fact that in 2023, overall transactions decreased, while the average transaction charge over ATC increased from 8% to 10.6%. And last, but certainly not least, this may be the most palpable shift over the last few years. Staffing shortages are a critical issue. A recent study published by DVM 360 showed that 86% of emergency and specialty hospitals are experiencing staffing shortages, which is leading to exactly what Dawn was talking about, burnout and overwork for existing staff. With 52% of emergency and specialty hospitals reporting that they were utilizing relief vets to help mitigate these challenges. These interconnected things are why we're here today, to explore solutions that can help your practice thrive despite these obstacles. So I did want to actually take a minute to also mention that if you guys have any questions, feel free to just pop them in the chat and we'll try to get to them. We'd love to engage with our viewers as well. So I want to send my first question to Shar. From the perspective of a practice owner, how did the veterinary business change over the past years, like pre-COVID, COVID, post-COVID?
Yeah, great question. So COVID in general, like, what a ride. 0 stars, right? I think for everyone across the board. Pre-COVID, I think like we were all faced with veterinary shortages, staffing shortages. We have intense competitive acquisition landscape that was emerging, as well as obviously in like the awareness of psychological distress in the field. So during COVID, our field really demonstrated some resilience. I mean, this is what dedication looks like, y'all. True grit, and it came at a massive cost. So pet ownership increased exponentially, as you mentioned. 1 in 5 households acquired dogs or cats during COVID. Out of 23 million households surveyed in 2019, if I check my math, that's 4.6 million pets that were placed into loving homes, which is amazing because the pet ownership boomed and our veterinary profession increased did not on the staffing side. So our same vet med professionals were now dealing with a massive increase visit volume, and the result was a little bit bleak. Merck did an animal health study as far as a well-being in 2022. 81% of staff members, 67% of veterinarians said their practice was shorthanded. 63% of staff members, 61% of veterinarians said their job increased exposure to COVID. And then 51% of staff members, 46% of veterinarians said they worked longer hours than they ever have. So what did this result in? I mean, staff members had serious psychological distress, 19% actually surveyed, and then 10% of veterinarians. And then half of the staff respondents, 31% veterinarians had intense burnout. So to lighten up this a little bit, we tried to do fun things and practices, right? We were bumping DMX in the back. Curbside was fun. Like we could kind of have a little vet med party and see pets and not have the clients kind of in our face consistently. But however, it's a little taxing, at least in Texas, going back and forth in 1,000-degree weather, curbside. And we couldn't exactly just shake it all off and take a breath because, like, on one hand, kudos, all of the COVID-acquired pets, 90% to be exact, are still in homes. But the downfall is we're still graduating 3,200 vets a year. And so that pet to DVM ratio is so big and wide. And then our clients are piling back in for preventative care, urgent, emergent. There's 4 to 6 hour wait times in ERs. So the shortages are rampant post-COVID.
Yeah, absolutely. I can attest to that. I actually was working in the local shelter during COVID, and it was great for adoptions, but it was always in the back of my mind, knowing that, what our capacity was at our vet clinic locally, kind of doing that math. And it doesn't take a mathematician to figure out that those numbers don't really line up. I've got my next question is for Dawn. Let's see. You have been consulting veterinary hospitals for over a decade. We won't mention the exact years. You talk to dozens of hospitals and owners, managers every single week. Do you feel they have started putting more emphasis on technology as a solution to their productivity problems, or what are the common challenges that they're coming to you with?
Yeah, I do see an adoption, more and more emphasis on technology, definitely. I mean, we're looking for help. I think the most common challenge I hear is inefficiency. A lot of practices come looking for, they want a solution, they want to be more efficient. That definitely, makes a lot of sense and correlates with what we're seeing, right? Staying after hours to finish records, staying on the computer too long during the shift, really wanting to, get that focus back on our patients, back on our clients. This is why we all got into this field, is to, help these patients. And, we end up with older technology, sometimes systems are lagging and we're spending more time on the system than we really would like to. So I would say probably the common theme is all surrounding efficiency and how do we make sure that we get out on time? How do we get home to our families? How do we find that balance, right? So although it's, it is a common challenge, finding the right diagnosis for that is sometimes a little bit difficult to know, like, where are those bottlenecks happening in the hospital, right? That can be tough. I know clinics that, they've attempted to do time studies. They're running around with stop clocks, and there you go, clocks. But running around with their stop clocks to see kind of, how things are going. It can be really, really manual though, because obviously, if you want to get really granular, as you should with appointments, more than just check in to check out times, like how are things progressing through the whole appointment, that can be really manual. So certainly, those kinds of things are important to be tracking. I mean, if we're going to be starting to track our success in increasing our efficiency, we need that data, right? So how do we get that data, and how do we make it less manual? So technology steps in there and gives us a big boost. Of course, other challenges, I guess, other things we should be monitoring. I mean, there's a lot of KPIs we can look at, but we think about things like how many phone calls a day. How can we reduce that? Can we reduce that by using technology and doing online booking? And then that leads into more challenges with, is our PIMS kind of set up to integrate well with some of this new technology that comes in that can help us with these things. So, looking at all of that as a whole, and just making sure that our programs are, modern and able to really help us in that area.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's kind of shocking that 65% of veterinary hospitals are still using kind of outdated server-based PIMS, which can directly impact the productivity and staff satisfaction. I know Dawn and I had less than stellar experience with an unnamed server-based PIMS where the vet would spend, we would spend time chasing one of the vets that we're working with to write their records. They would sit down, they'd spend whatever amount of time they needed to write their detailed medical records, and then they would try to save them, and poof, they would be gone because somebody had the program open on another desktop. So
I've been there.
Great.
Oh my God.
So I think this gap becomes even more evident when we consider the workforce, right? The average age of a veterinary technician is under 30 years old, meaning that many of them are younger than the actual server-based systems that they're expected to work with. So being forced to use older, kind of clunky systems not only hampers the productivity, but also impacts their job satisfaction. And as these systems struggle to meet the expectations and needs of a digitally native workforce, and not to mention the clients are also used to, picking up their phone and being able to basically run their lives, right? So my question is for all of you, and feel free to kind of take turns answering what you'd like to, but what software or features do you think are a must-have for a modern veterinary practice?
I mean, I can jump in happily and say exactly like you said, having the ability to have multiple users log into the same program simultaneously, so I'm not having to take turns, play round robin, or get bumped off of medical records quickly, is a huge win. And likewise, apparently I'm going to talk more about medical records, but being able to scan previous visits quickly, again, I'm not going to name the other practice management software, but man, when I have to open each individual exam to do a quick review of the medical record, but it's inside 3 or 4 windows, kills me because it makes it really hard to do a thorough job. It takes 10, 15 minutes to scan back through 5 appointments. That's not very time efficient. So being able to read through records quickly and succinctly to know exactly what I'm walking into before I get in the room is a huge win for me.
Yeah, I think certainly for me, cloud-based, obviously, accessibility, and then also the reporting structure from where I sit is very important to help guide my team through their endeavors. And just that accessibility for client communication, having the ability to track and add pictures and, upload messages or even two-way texting, things like that. Those are things that you document conversations, especially when we're dealing with husband and wife teams, that you might speak to one and perhaps not the other. And so it's helpful for the flow.
Definitely.
I love it. Those husband and wife teams. I've scolded more than one husband.
With the client communication piece, you're right, and talking about appointments on the decline, that sort of thing. I mean, it's super important to have that focus on client experience as well, and how are we bringing increase in veterinary costs? How are we increasing the value for what they're getting when they come in, and having that client communication available, not even just available within a same system. And I think that's an important distinction, because yes, we could always, add on more systems, of course, increasing our monthly spend for the for the clinic. But besides that, adding all these different systems, we're having to jump back and forth, right, to find that information. And like going in the room, I need to review this, so I have to jump to this platform to look at that. I have to jump over here. I'm very segmented, and it's just not conducive to being able to get information quickly.
Mm-hmm. It can be really confusing for pet parents as well, right? Mm-hmm. Not knowing kind of what system they're using, not having that cohesive technology working together. So I want to shift gears a little bit here and talk about the value of relief workforce. As I said, 52% of emergency and specialty clinics reported utilizing relief workforce to help to mitigate some of the challenges that they're facing. So my question is for Andrew. You've been a relief veterinarian for many, many years, and you've seen it all. Have you been picky about the hospitals you choose to work at? Were the hospital's PIMS or any of the technology we're talking about important to you?
Ooh, excellent question. So I can say in the beginning, I definitely was picky. I very much wanted to stay in my comfort zone. But as I grew even just a little bit more confident, I recognized I had a lot in common with what other relief veterinarians like, which is horizons, expanding our skill sets, and learning as much as possible. And so I realized, well, if I only stay where I'm comfortable, I'm only going to learn what I already know. So I did start to branch out, and I'm so thankful I did. Over time, I've worked at very fancy hospitals, very humble hospitals, and I found that even the strongest hospital had something that they struggled with that other hospitals had figured out. And even the most humble practice had something they did uniquely well or really clever that no one else seemed to do. So recognizing that, man, there's a diversity of experience out there, it's worth doing more than just judging a book by its cover, was a really groundbreaking moment for my career. So in the beginning, I was picky, but as time went on, I was like, no, there's good. And that's another fun thing about vet med that I think we can all share is, and I tell new relief veterinarians this, is we're so spoiled in that no matter what hospital I walk into, I automatically have a common thematic with everyone that we're here to help animals. That means that no matter how rough the day's going, we all have this common bond together. So that makes it really exciting. But as far as how PIMS go, yes, to be blunt, the practice management software they have does make a big difference, not only for my brightness, we'll say, but for my efficiency, for my ability to produce for the practice. The practice management software really governs how well I control my time. And so hospitals that have a good PIMS system, I can really jump right in. And on the flip side of things, hospitals that have, for me, dreaded handwritten records, because man, I think I was born a doctor. I've never been able to write legibly to any extent. It was harder to learn and follow up on cases. As a relief veterinarian, it's my job to try to put myself in the owner's shoes and say, how would they want me to manage this case? Or how can I do it the way this hospital would? When I can't read your handwritten records, I'm flying blind and I have to default to the way that I would choose to do it. So in multiple ways, having a good PIMS really helps set people up for success.
Definitely. My next question is for Shar. Given the current situation, do you think hospitals are underutilizing their relief vets and technicians?
Yes, ma'am. I mean, yeah, so many ways. Of course, I have some slight bias being what I do today with Rue, but I think like often relief is seen as like a necessary evil. But what if I could use relief to grow your practice? What if I could ensure you could find that right fit? So just increasing opportunity via increased capacity, adding relief vets or techs during targeted times for your workflows in your hospitals. Every hospital has its own rhythm. My guys typically are early birds, so we are like flat out from 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. I've run practices that run on the opposite schedule. It's like a 2 to 7 flat out. Interject some relief there. Have an extra DVM on hand. Have some relief technicians on hand. You'll really see a growth in your revenue for opportunity. Everyone's so obviously accustomed to like forward booking techniques, et cetera. As those time slots pass, it's lost. But you can really use it to target for your hospital in particular. As a recruitment tool, meet people, network, many vet med professionals in your area, and just identify opportunities to work together and then test it out. You can test a fit through many of the relief platforms. Utilizing platforms like Rue is just testing potential candidates for a fit for both parties. For me personally, my team, they're a little bit fun, they're a little bit edgy, a little bit wild. I love it. That's their vibe. That's how we work with our clients. I want to make sure that someone coming in, Charlotte, brand new, is cool with that and they enjoy it. So, and just overall your team's well-being, I really think we underutilize relief in that aspect, just allowing for that time, allowing for that additional support, whether it's evenings, Saturdays. Give your team Saturdays off, have a relief DVM come in, give them some quality of life back. So I think there's just so many ways you can utilize relief in your practice effectively.
Mm-hmm. Now, one thing is so if there's a clinic that is interested in using relief vets, how would you recommend that they efficiently integrate these relief vets and technicians into their existing workflows?
That's okay. So that is like how you win, right? So you have to do it intentionally. Relief veterinarians are unicorns, y'all. And I actually have like how to capture a unicorn handbook here in the practice. I mean, let's be intentional. Have your team welcome them by name, create space for them, for their personal belongings, call them ahead, let them know where to park, let them know good lunch spots, have a muffin and orange juice waiting for them. I know it sounds like extra, but when you're coming in and you're the new kid every day, I just imagine being the new kid at school every single day. That's what our relief veterinarians are feeling like. Introduce them to clients as part of your team. This is Dr. Findlaytor. He's joining us today to ensure that you and Fluffy Duffy receive the best possible care. Just communicate, be transparent, and most of all, like collaborate, work with them. You have a different flow, you have a different way of doing processes, introduce them to it. Nobody's going to suck back off of it. They really want to understand how you work. So I think give them a buddy, especially veterinarians. Give them a technician buddy. Let them lead them through the day. It's really helpful.
I love that. I think that's really great advice, just being intentional about it, because I've worked with many locum, new grads at Emerge, and they come in kind of a little bit like deer in the headlights kind of thing. It is exactly like the new kid in school kind of vibe. And you can make or break their experience based off of the reception and the welcome that they get, right? And communication is always key. I've got a follow-up question for Dawn. Workflow standardization and automation are paramount, especially for relief vets and techs who may be new to the practice. What are some examples of the features that we've got at Digitail that clients love the most?
Yeah, that's a great question. At risk of not wanting to go through a complete feature dump here, but I wouldn't mind at least giving you a bit of a visual on one of the most impactful tools that I can think of. Definitely help with communication for the practice and just ease of use, really, for relief vets as well. So let me see if I can share my screen. And it might just be, there we go. Are you guys seeing a board up on the screen now?
Yep, we can see it.
Okay. Perfect. So this is what we call our flow board. The reason I think this is so impactful, as I mentioned, it really brings everything together as one dashboard in the system. So what that means for, a relief vet, a relief technician, is less need to learn a ton of navigation in a system, right? I mean, the ease of use here, the reduction of clicks and that segmented feeling is really eliminated. And you can see what's laid out right in front of you for the day, even down to, your own time management ability. So basically, on this flow board, you're able to even just cone down and look at your own patients for the day, right? This is really somewhere you can go and just get a sense of where am I supposed to be at any given moment, and really help with that communication as well. So as patients are going through that appointment, these cards are moving along and they're giving us a reset on the timer. It goes back to a little bit in terms of, some of those challenges we see even with efficiency and being able to track that. This is actually tracking and letting us know at the end of the day, where are we seeing those bottlenecks? If we're seeing them sitting and checked in for, a really long time, maybe that means a relief technician to come and start those appointments is going to be important. We don't have a technician that's there to triage these quickly. So the actual point where the time is taking in these visits is super important.
Yeah, I think that like usability is huge, and intuitiveness for sure. I think that is very, very key. I've got my next question is for Andrew. So as a relief veterinarian, what are your recommendations on how to write amazing medical records? Do you have tips?
Yes, I do. I'll acknowledge everyone's records are a little bit different, but everyone traditionally uses SOAP, subjective, objective, assessment, and plan. I actually encourage people to use DAP to make it more condensed and readable. I tell people as a relief veterinarian, we want to convey heavy hitting information as quickly and easily as possible because someone to review your records, they need to be able to take action on it. So lots of fact finding, detailed history, really clearly thought out assessment and plan for next steps. I recommend for people, in addition to writing really clear records, I encourage people to do as much in-house labs, et cetera. Try to get as much of the story packed into that record as possible. So again, best case scenario, if I don't complete the case that day, I've got 95% done. Someone can see what I think was happening. I thought we were going to have a diabetic. Here's the history. It's PUPD. We sent out blood. Fructose can go back tomorrow morning. My recommended treatment plan for insulin. So that all someone has to do is just look at my last line and say, oh, this is next steps. That makes sense with everything they wrote out. Again, our goal is relief is to bring relief at everyone's desk the next day.
Amazing. That's really good info. We do have a question, I think, that is for you and Shar. So do you have any tips about how to get feedback from your practice from relief vets, maybe surveys or one-on-one interviews? What are the best ways to go about this, and what kinds of questions should they be asking?
Oh, that's a great question. Andrew, did you want to swing first or?
Go ahead.
Okay, so any tips on getting feedback about your practice from relief vets? I think that just goes to building the initial relationship. So again, just being intentional and communicating really well with the relief veterinarians. I always open the door like off the bat, like, hey, welcome to 2525. We have no toes. Like, I make that very clear. Like, we have no toes. Stomp away. Like, we're here for one thing and one thing only, and that is pet health. And that is like our mission vision. So working off of that, as far as surveys or interviews, I think all of that is amazing feedback to gain, especially when you have an outside perspective coming in. As far as questions, I would consider what you're trying to elicit from the relief veterinarian about your practice. So is it specific to staff? Is it specific to workflows? Is it specific to sort of client flow, processes, equipment? But I don't think there's anything that's necessarily like off limits. And if you're looking to like understand what you could do to attract veterinarians to your practice, I think like touching on obviously culture, processes, procedures, and then collaboration. Those are like the big guys for me. Those are what you build your practice on for peg stools. Andrew,
I love that. I'm going to echo a fair amount of that too. I'll say asking feedback for veterinarians is an excellent idea. It's something we need to build some structure and framing to. And what I mean by that is, as a veterinarian, I'm trained to be a clinician. I'm not always trained on how to communicate like management feedback. So when I have my veterinary brain on and I'm going through an exam, I'm literally only looking for things that are wrong, like hair's too long, ear infection, and so on and so on. I don't want to give that kind of feedback to a practice owner. I want to have what we'll call like the compliment sandwich. So sending an email to a veterinarian, great way to go, because as you know, many of them are introverted. If you ask over the phone or in person for direct feedback, they're probably not going to be as honest as you want. So if I would veterinarian an email a day after, or even 2 days after, and say, hey, we hope you had a great time here at our shift. I'd love to ask for some feedback. Can you name 1 or 2 things that you liked at our practice that you feel like went well, and anything that you feel like you could improve on, or things that you didn't enjoy as much? That then reminds, or even for some cases, teaches some of these new veterinarians, hey, you're right, giving feedback is a healthy, normal thing. Let's make sure to balance it out. It just sets it to be a nice, constructive situation, rather than either a very long list of complaints or them not saying anything at all because they don't know how to balance it. So setting that framework, I think, is great.
Mm-hmm. And I think like akin to kind of what you mentioned as far as kind of, learning new things by stepping out of your comfort zone and maybe, going to practices where you aren't necessarily super comfortable. The same can be said for, having relief vets in and getting this feedback, right? Mm-hmm. You can get some really valuable feedback from relief vets that have a different lens that they're looking at your practice from, and they can have some really, really insightful things to say. So I think engaging them is a brilliant idea. And this was a really really great question. So thanks to whoever asked it.
Yeah.
So
it's a great question too, right? Because you could get so stuck in, survival mode at the practice, and this is the way we've always done it. And a relief vet coming in and just the wealth of experience and knowledge and best practices and what they've seen. I think that's an amazing question. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. I'm sure someone has, like I said, a standardized, right? Like Char, you said you've got a resource for that.
Yeah, we have, I have a Cording Unicorn little one-sheeter I could certainly get out to everyone who's interested. So it's really about, like, again, just opening those doors and like being aware too, like just having awareness when you're working with veterinarians. To Dr. Findlaytor's point, like, don't push them to like do like a checklist of things that could be better at your practice, because that's uncomfortable for like everyone involved. But I think just eliciting that like open, honest feedback is the way to go.
Mm-hmm. Really. And it helps them feel, valued as well, and that their perspective is needed and wanted, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So we've made it over half an hour into a webinar about technology, and we haven't talked about AI yet. So we're going to go there. So obviously we're super big fans of AI at Digitail, and we do have a native AI assistant, and we believe that AI will transform how we approach our daily workflows. It's already working for us as workers in this software. And we firmly believe that it can have a huge impact on alleviating strain on veterinary professionals, elevating patient care, and aiding with decision making. So open question to you guys. I'd like to hear everyone's opinions, but specifically for Char and Andrew, how do you think relief vets and techs can utilize AI?
I'm happy to jump on that, Heather, but can we take one step backwards for our RU attendees? I know from the Digitail family, we'll say everyone's very familiar with your product, but for our RU attendees who are here in the audience, I'd love it if we could go into at least a little bit what AI integration in Digitail looks like. I'm sure plenty of people in our audience are like, well, wait, how does AI work for Digitail? Can we talk about that for a sec?
Yeah, absolutely. We sure can. So at Digitail, we do have Tails, which is our native AI. It is aptly named, obviously because of the tail aspect. So it is constantly under, under construction. We are constantly getting it to do new things, but currently I'll kind of just focus on the three main aspects of what we're using it most for. So we've got the Tails AI dictation, which is a voice-to-text solution for quick soap notes and exam summaries, including virtual appointments. And basically what that does is it has the capacity to act as an ambient listener to an exam. It can kind of suss out the relevant information and kind of leave out the, Sally got a home run at the T-ball practice yesterday kind of info. And it actually will do a quick summary, and then it'll sort your whole exam into a SOAP automatically. So all you have to do is read it over, make any edits that you might need, and finalize your records. So you can literally be done your records before you leave the exam room, which I think is huge because it was one of my jobs to chase the vets to make sure that the records were done. So I would have really loved this when I was in practice. And then the next piece of the puzzle is Tails AI Assistant, which this is probably one of the biggest things that I could see helping out relief vets from the gate, is because it summarizes patient histories like that. It essentially is kind of like a chat-based AI, and you would just ask it to summarize the patient history. You can ask it to make any recommendations. You can ask it kind of, if there's been any client communications, and kind of find the tone so that you're not walking into an exam room with kind of an irate client, which is also great. It can help with treatment planning. It helps with differentials as well. So when I was working at Emerge with new grads, they'd walk into the exam room, they'd pull down the textbooks and do some research because they maybe didn't feel super comfortable. Tails actually can do that for them. And it's nice because it's linked to the patient and client information, which is safely done because it's already inside Digitail, right? And then the last piece of the puzzle, which also would help relief vets, is the Tails AI patient intake. So basically, it is a little AI chatbot that clients can go through the intake process, 3 days before their appointment. collects patient information and history before the visit. It summarizes it right into the record. So before you walk into the exam room, you can read all of it. And it will hopefully prompt clients, if they're saying that their pet has diarrhea, it can suggest that they bring in a stool sample, which is amazing and super helpful. So that's kind of the current capacities. We also have an addition to Tails Assistant, which is Tails Vision, and it can actually extract information from PDFs and images. It can analyze images, which is really great. It's super helpful when you're inputting new records. You can summarize, basically use Tails to summarize the medical history, and it can pull that right from the file, which is really key. So those are kind of the current capacities right now to give everyone the Coles Notes version. So I guess I'll remind everyone of the question, but how do you think that relief vets and techs can utilize AI specifically?
I think, just to chat a little bit and bring this kind of back around to some of the issues we were speaking about before for relief vets. I mean, handwritten notes. I know that was kind of one of the, oh gosh, handwritten notes. Tails Vision, actually, we've tested it with handwritten notes, and it's able to.
No way.
Yes.
So you really
amazing.
a handwritten note in there and really, be able to analyze that. That's one really exciting thing about the Tails Vision. I know you were mentioning as well, Shar, about the husband-wife dynamic and who, if you speak with one or the other. And we often see, the non-primary caregiver bringing the pet in, while the other one's maybe working. And, the intake is just so valuable there, because the primary caregiver can 3 days before the visit even sit down and take their time and go through and answer all those questions. So by the time, somebody arrives with the pet, you've got that whole summary there in the record for you. So less time spent trying to get a hold of someone that has the answers to those questions. And then on the quick soap, which is just, so impactful for our vets. This is what's getting people home on time. This is, if somebody calls in sick, they're able to, instead of canceling those appointments, they could take on double sometimes because they're just using the quick soap. And it's basically, most of your record being done during that visit. But on top of that, one of our users really loves how it adds that consistency to the records, right? And like you say, you're not trying to add work to anybody's plate. So if you've got nice, consistent records, and it's always, at the end, you've got your, next steps and everything all laid out, this can add that consistency. And it doesn't matter if it's 8 o'clock in the morning or 7 for your early riser ones, 7 in the morning or 7 o'clock at night, your records you don't lose that energy because it's just picking up what you're talking about in the appointment. So just trying to, kind of tie to some of the issues that you guys highlighted earlier.
I love that. And I'm really excited about the dictation. I'm going to take a second to bring this full, talking about earlier, Heather, appropriately. So many hospitals are seeing a decrease in appointments, although ACT, as it were, is also dropping for a lot of people. The rare exceptions, I'll say, is the hospitals that really do a great job of connecting with clients, of solving their problems and really treating them as an individual, actually don't see that problem. I feel like they're still as busy as ever. So the way that this translates to dictation is, as a veterinarian, I always feel torn between efficiency, which is facing the computer and typing everything the client says, versus being where I should be, which is taking a knee, talking to the dog and the owner, but being with them in that space and very present. Like you said, I basically look like a top in the room. I'm flipping back and forth between the person and the computer, spinning in my little wheelie chair. You're telling me now with this kind of AI software, I have the option to be connected with the owner the entire time. Efficiency will take, I can now have a better connection, which helps the hospital continue to grow. So it really touches way more pain points than just the record itself, although that's where it's sitting. That just makes me so excited to do a better job in more ways than one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no more over-the-shoulder kind of consults, right?
Exactly.
And one of the pieces of feedback actually that we got this week from one of our users was that having that ambient listening actually kind of inspires them to talk more about what they're observing and kind of what their thought process is, which also increases that value for the pet parent, right? They feel more engaged. They're more involved in that care. So, instead of, walking out of the room and being confused as to what they're paying for, they have that whole perception of value.
We talk about that value proposition a lot. And I think as much as we want to think that we're strictly medical and that's who we are, it's not. We're a service industry, and you have to have that trust built with those clients. And I absolutely agree with Andrew, putting on my ownership hat here. We have a boutique practice, like that's the style we deal with. And we're fortuitous in a lot of ways because of that. Having said that, that red carpet better be rolled out, ironed, pressed, and ready to go on the daily. I love the high expectations, but having our relief veterinarians come in here, having that accessibility to those summarized notes immediately, knowing that, you know, Mr. Smith has been coming in here for 35 years, and not having to scramble and look through all of the notes and put it all together. I mean, for me, immediately buy-in and trust from that client, and then the integration of the veterinarian into your practice is right there. It's that client trust. So I love seeing that. And I'm like, well, where do we sign up? How do I move my software over? I'll be reaching out. Thank you.
There's really some exciting things that AI is doing. And even on that, like the kind of vein of like that bespoke veterinary care that you want to offer your clients, the Tails assistant can basically make up very personalized client communications, discharge informations, info sheets, because it can pull all that information. So you're actually able to give more value, right, by addressing the pet parent by name, by referring to the actual problem, exactly what you discussed, and really making things clear. You can translate it into another language. So if you have, a pet parent that speaks another language as their primary language, you can communicate with them in their preferred language. So there's really a lot of versatility that it offers.
I love that. And again, just building that value proposition. I mean, I don't know about everyone who's listening. Feel free to comment, but I don't know whose mom also calls them after they leave their vet appointment in another state and says, what does this mean? What happened? And like, I mean, I can guarantee they probably gave her plenty of discharge instructions, but it's a little bit overwhelming, right? You're walking out, your pet just had surgery.
They're only going to pick up a portion of that, right? So to be able to have that, to be able to have that handy after. And that's another, aspect that Digitail does really well, is that client communication piece. We have also a native pet parent app. So it's always constantly being that tie and that partnership and that collaboration with your pet parents, and it's sharing those records automatically. So you're not spending time, doing those sorts of things, and they've got it there to reread, after they leave, and it's available to them. One of the cool things that we didn't touch on yet is the way that Tails can, and I'll share my screen here because I think you might like this one, especially when you think about, as you mentioned, culture in your practice as well. So are you seeing a communication update on my screen right now?
Not yet. Oh, there we are. Yes.
Okay. So being able to communicate, and here we'll be sending this owner an email, and unfortunately this owner has kind of accrued quite an unpaid balance. So, any of those really uncomfortable types of things that are difficult, you could use AI to, kind of generate these for you and write this out. And of course it's going to pull in all that information from the client. You can always use different tone. Maybe it's, one that you're that you're really, quite casual with. You can change the tone up and just have it rewrite. And it's just, it's just so nice to be able to use it for these types of interactions, so that you can, get on with your day and do some other things. I will as well just jump over to the flow board. We talked about the really impactful way that we can use it as well when we're looking at, kind of getting that overview for a patient. And I think this is one of Heather's, Falcor here. So you've got your tails that you can grab, and here's that opportunity. If you've got any, anything you just want to drag and drop and have analysis, like those handwritten records, or, maybe a history that's 40 pages long PDF, you can drop it there and have it analyzed. But for this one, I mean, you could go in and ask for a summary. So give me a summary of this patient over the last few visits. And probably you get better at prompting it than I am, but I'm still learning. So basically it can go through very quickly this patient's records and give you the highlights, right? So that way you can, kind of get into the appointment faster and not have to go through everything. So it's going to kind of pull what it can here for you.
this is all incredible.
And this
and
really
again,
helps with flow. Yeah.
Yeah, this helps with flow, and this also just helps with me feeling like I'm doing a thorough job. I'll tell people, like, everyone, like you said, like everyone wants to use relief veterinarians ideally to grow their practice. Although there's something to learn from every practice, the practices I'm interested in settling down in, that we call it getting adopted by, as it were, the practices I want to get adopted by are forward-facing practices that have shown me in some way or another they're still interested in learning and growing, even if that means something as simple as, yeah, we just got a little ultrasound machine, but we didn't have one before. We just got an EKG. Again, I want to know that we're forward-facing and growing. If I walk into a practice like this, I'm going to have to get adopted because I'm not going to be able to go back to just doing regular writing. When I've got an IEI scribe taking everything down, communicating for clients, again, helping me raise up level basically as a doctor, I'm going to be like, yeah, I gotta marry this practice. I gotta settle down because I can't go back to what I was doing before. So this is really exciting.
I love that, marrying it. Awesome. So I would just want to encourage everyone, if there is any more questions, feel free to ask. We've got about 10 more minutes, so I'd love to kind of go around and ask for any final tips for hospitals for utilizing relief vets, utilizing technology, any final advice that we have. No pressure.
No pressure. I can start it off. I have no ego, so if it comes across awkward, that's fine. I just think take that next step. Like, relief really is designed for that networking and growth opportunity. It really does help build up that community aspect. And I think that a lot of the time we get, as owners or operators, nervous. Oh, will our clients like them, or will this happen? Or they're just as nervous. Take the time, welcome them in, bring them into the fold. We're all slightly introverted weirdos in the vet med industry anyway. Just acknowledge it. Just wear it, okay? Like, fly your flag, guys. But bring them in. I just think it's a missed opportunity not to look for that growth. And also, just as our field, health in general, we need that. We need that empowerment. We need that sort of individual entrepreneurial mind spirit, and from all of these veterinarians. So let's encourage that so we can stay on the right path.
I will double down on that, man. Communication and just kindness, which are two things that our field is good at, are the things that really make all of this work really well together. I tell relief veterinarians, don't underestimate how nervous a practice owner is. Although I'm walking in and I'm thinking about Krispy Kreme donuts or whatever I'm thinking about walking in the door, these practice owners understandably are like, this veterinarian's going to walk in, they're going to judge my hospital, they're going to judge my clients, they're going to judge me. It can be a very open feeling. And like you said, for the relief veterinarians as well. So it's funny, I tell people, like, as a veterinarian, I would never have a dog walk in the door and not like put my hand out or say hello to the dog before I get it on the scale. I don't just grab the dog and say, get on the scale and sit still. But as veterinarians, as a profession, we sometimes just jump straight into work so we can skip the small talk, which I get, but we just slow down, like you said, and show that compassion and understanding. Everything runs really smoothly.
Yeah, and I think ownership too, right? I mean, there's likely, maybe it's a technician, maybe there's someone in the practice that would love to own, kind of the courting a unicorn, type of certification, and be that ambassador and be that person that takes that on. So it's nice to identify people that might be, wanting to take an ownership there as well, and make sure the experience is good for anyone coming in.
If you can't tell, Dawn, that's my role.
You need to create your courting the unicorn as a course. We need a certificate at the end of it, I feel like.
Yes. I'm happy to do so. Absolutely. And as far as the integration capabilities for Digitail, I mean, how that walks hand in hand with relief and just flow in general. I mean, like, Heather, sign me up. I'm sold. And, I have no problem moving over. I think it's exceptional. It certainly lends well to what Andrew and I work with relief, whether it's vets or techs, and having that ability, especially with the AI concepts, are just amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think our mantra has always been to make things easier, to streamline, to kind of give this all-in-one experience. And it really kind of goes hand in hand with, courting that unicorn, with the things that would be very helpful for a relief vet walking into a new practice. I love that analogy, Andrew. I might steal that of, you wouldn't walk up to a strange dog and shove your hand in its face. You're not going to just like expect your relief vet or technician to just walk in and like throw them in an exam room with someone, right? It's the same thing.
Yep.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. I'm very excited.
Have any?
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. No, I was gonna say, are there any other pieces of advice, Char, that you have, or any other resources that if someone's really passionate about utilizing a relief vet or like kind of dipping their toe in, maybe they haven't even considered it before now, and that's why they're viewing this. Do you have any advice?
Yeah, call me. I mean, reach out. Like, I'm happy to help. Like Rue is certainly a passion project for myself. I came from acquisitions and Consolidator previously. I've done another startup on mobile veterinary. They're all wonderful concepts, but there's something about this one that feels really good. And I have a lovely hospital that we can bring people to and a team that loves each other. But I'll tell you, it's putting in the work. It's daily work to make it happen, but just reach out. Don't be afraid to ask questions. I think a lot of the time you'll feel isolated. I've been a single practice manager before. It is not a good feeling. And even if you're in a corporation, it's a little bit competitive, right? So then you're in this competitive EBITDA rat race run. I've been there as well. I've done it. You have an ally. Like, everyone has felt that. And so don't be afraid to reach out. Ask all the questions. We're very transparent. Dr. Findlaytor is pretty cool too. You can reach out to him.
From time to time.
50-50, but most of the time.
I hear you'll get some pretty good dad jokes if you reach out to him.
Yes. I have a tab pulled up just in case of any internet issues of 260 dad jokes. We're not going small on those. So I'm ready to go. But echoing on exactly what you said, Char, like just being willing to experiment and try with relief or AI for that matter. I've had many veterinarians reach out and be like, is AI going to steal my job? And it's like, no, AI is going to be amazing. It's going to make your job easier. Same with relief, guys. Like, relief is a growing trend. It's more than doubled over the past 5 years in the industry. We do webinars and talks. If any of you veterinarians or hospital owners are listening, we're presenting at all the Fetch conferences going forward, just talking about, hey, relief doesn't have to be expensive. Here's how to make it a profitable endeavor for your practice. Again, a good relief veterinarian is going to produce way more than they cost you. So we want this. We're talking about a lot of feelings, which is great, but I want to remind practice owners, like, this is also a good business move for you guys. It builds sustainability, it builds revenue. So yeah, come talk to us and we'll help you get all your nuts and bolts straightened away.
Yeah, I love that. I've got, there's a comment here that's been shared by D. Allen, who's an RVT CVMP, and they've said, I love this. So we're getting some good feedback as well. But yeah, I think to kind of build out on what you were saying, I mean, yes, there is obviously a lot of the touchy-feely stuff, right? We want to make the relief vets feel welcome. We want to make sure that we're providing the best care for our pet parents and their patients. But also, yes, obviously the bottom line is it's the driving force behind a lot of business decisions. And like Char was saying, utilizing relief vets in order to plan to grow your practice sometimes can be a really, really good idea. And it's not something that people consider very freely.
Agreed. And as a lot of people have made reference before, it's like, not brand new grads the day they walk out, but in general, new grads actually produce quite a bit because they're unfamiliar. So they're like, well, I'm going to run blood work and X-ray on everything because I don't know these patients. Relief veterinarians are actually still in that same category. Like we mentioned, it's their first day. So when I walk in, unless I've got amazing, really thorough records, I'm like, I don't know this patient. I'm almost required to do more intensive workups to ensure that I'm doing a good job, which makes it that much easier to do good by the hospital. And again, with good communication, the client's like, your relief veterinarians are really thorough. I like that. So it's typically win-win for everyone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that helps with that ATC for sure. Okay, well, do we have any final thoughts? We've got a couple minutes left. Otherwise, I'm totally going to throw it to Andrew for some dad jokes.
We've got dad jokes, and I've got animal quizzes too. So I'm gonna quiz the audience. So
okay, yeah, go for it.
So this is something that we like to do for fun at Rue Guys. So we're going to talk about the blue whale. Obviously, we know blue whales are really big. They weigh quite a bit. Their tongue weighs as much as another animal on the planet. Does anyone want to take a guess in chat? And I don't have any prizes. I wish I do. We'll find some kind of imaginary prize to get you guys. But anyone want to guess what animal a blue whale's tongue weighs the same as?
Let's give everyone a couple of minutes. Hit us with a dad joke while we're giving people a minute to answer. And no Googling.
Everyone's Googling right now.
Yeah, no
Everyone's
Googling.
Googling.
And no AI either. We like AI, but no cheating on this quiz. So a dad joke, build a dog from a blacksmith. You know what he did? As soon as we got home, he made a bolt for the door.
Wah, wah.
It has to be a want. I was very clear. These are dad jokes. Where do people hang out during medieval times?
During what? Sorry?
Where do people like to hang out during medieval times?
Medieval times.
Abs.
Oh, Andrew.
I'm gonna get booed right off the screen. That's okay. I'm going outside.
Wow.
Oh, we have a guess.
Oh,
Okay,
we do.
Okay.
D. Allen has chimed in and has voted for elephant. Is that correct?
Correct. A blue whale's tongue can weigh between 4,000 and 8,000 pounds. So yes, a blue whale's tongue can weigh the same as an elephant, which blew my mind when I read that.
Wow.
That's bananas. Now I have a follow-up question because I thought it's what you were going to ask. But the size of a blue whale's heart is the same as what vehicle?
Are you asking us or the audience?
Yeah, I mean, whoever wants to answer.
Well, I'm excited for Char to answer this one. Go for it, Char.
Okay. Well, I was going back and forth. I mean, like, I was thinking like a VW Beetle, but
That's correct.
Good job.
Yes, that's it.
no keyboard there, guys. Use hands
Yeah,
up.
I saw. No cheating whatsoever.
Guys, how many hearts does an octopus have? We just did this one at Rue recently. How many hearts does an octopus have?
Well, I know the real answer, but is this a quiz or like is this a dad joke?
Oh no, sorry, this is a quiz. I can see though how we could
Okay.
mix them.
I will refrain from answering and give someone else the opportunity. In case I'm wrong, I don't want to embarrass myself either.
We'll put Dawn on the hot seat.
I do
Dawn,
not have
for
the
$1
answer to
million
this.
check written by Digitail. How many
I'm
hearts
assuming
does an
it's
octopus?
more than one.
That is a good guess. Yep, that's in the right direction.
Mhm.
That's my answer. More than one.
You are factually correct. It has 3.
Is that Price's Right rules? Like,
Yeah,
is that like the closest without going over?
We're being generous. Octopus has 3 hearts, 2 that pump blood to their gills, and a 3rd that goes to the body. Good job, Heather. I could see you do it.
Wow.
Andrew, I think I'll correct it. It has 4 because it has mine too. They're adorable.
Oh my god.
Oh, oh my God. Okay. We'll have to end on that adorable note. Thank you, Char. So thank you so much, Dawn, Andrew, Char, for participating. This has been really great. Hopefully our viewers find it helpful. Thank you guys for participating and thank you guys for tuning in and we'll see you at the next one.
You bet. Thanks so much.